like one-on-one, if I'm just like hanging out or something like that's fine. But if I'm like
doing some shit,
doing anything or like, in a big group or shit like that, I get fucking weird, and that's not a fun podcast if I'm just sitting here like,
especially if we're specifically trying to talk about you.
Yeah, right. I'll be like spinning wheels 6 ways to Sunday, like, oh man, I gotta really think about how this affects my work or whatever.
I hope one day that like one of my clients like finds a podcast. Like, bro, do you do a podcast? I'm like, yo, I fucking made it. You found me.
What do you do?
I do cleaning and pressure washing.
Sweet.
I'm a rabid communist shit poster, pretty much.
Well, that's what, when Bucci said it in the, like, when you added me, I was like, oh, this is a guy I can get down.
I spend far too much time online.
I mean, same, honestly.
Terminally online, some might say.
I think I spend a lot of time online and I just do it quietly.
Yeah, okay. That's not good for us.
I don't really. I do the same thing in real life.
This week, we're going to be doing things a little bit different. We're going to have an interview with a lawyer friend of ours. We're talking with Jeremy, Antoine, and
Andrew Shriver.
Okay, so I knew your name. I was gonna say, is there like a little 3 letters you want me to put in front of that for you? But
no.
Prefix? Yeah. Like
I like how you just call it a little 3 letters.
Sometimes you gotta use the words that you got.
No, I'm technically allowed to call myself doctor, but if you do that as an attorney, you are the worst person on the fucking planet.
Word. I thought there was another like
I would be the worst person on the planet.
But that comes after, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's the that's also, you get to use that for like 3 years when you're excited about graduating, and then if you keep you're fucking pretentious.
Damn, nobody would like me as a lawyer.
Yeah, I definitely would be Esquire.
I'd definitely be Dr. Antoine Smith. Esquire. All of it.
But yeah, thank you guys very much for having me.
Hey, no problem, man. We appreciate you coming on. It's we were looking for more contributors, to be honest with you, like fucking people to come on and just bullshit with us. And then when you were like, I want to talk about the criminal justice system, I was like, that's my man. What's up?
Well, like I said, I've listened to a couple episodes. You guys are very funny, generally very humorous. So sorry to bring everybody the fuck down.
We'll find a way to laugh at everybody's suffering.
This is actually good. This is the first time I'm like talking to a lawyer without like breaking my bank.
Well, now see, here's the thing. Even though this is going to be posted publicly, I'm just going to say this all falls under lawyer.
Attorney-client privilege.
Attorney-client privilege.
Yes.
And it can never be used against us in court, even though we're posting it publicly. Right? That's how it works?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Is this confidentially posted to the public?
Yeah, right.
We classified it and then unsealed it within 3 days.
So, just a little rundown of who you are. You're a public defender in the Cuyahoga County court system, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I am supposed to say that nothing I'm saying today reflects the views of the Cuyahoga County Public Defender's Office. I speak for myself and no one else. Thank you.
What are some of the things that are really itch at you the most that you want to talk about? You know what I'm saying? Like if you had to put your thumb on the biggest problem facing Cuyahoga County courts right now, what would that thumb land on?
Right now, I would say it is bail reform. with air quotes around it, and just like the system of cash bail generally.
Okay.
Right. Because the idea, historically is you're charged with a crime. We want to make sure that you're going to come back to court. Right. Because obviously you're facing some sort of punishment, and punishment is bad and people don't like being punished.
Right.
So we want to make sure that you're going to come back and do this.
You're financially liable.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you're going to post some money, and if you don't show back up to court, we get to keep it.
And you go to jail.
And you go to jail.
So can I just say one thing about this? Because I was just telling my cousin the other day that the bail system made it to where now you're guilty until proven innocent, instead of being innocent until proven guilty.
A fucking man.
Unless you're rich.
Yes.
Because if you're rich, you can just post that shit same night. You'll be out of there. They'll probably call the judge for you. They'll just be like, yeah, this is it. Bam, get you up out of there. You're poor. You're spending 9 months in Cuyahoga County's overcrowded jail.
The worst place on the planet. I have people, as an aside, who literally are like, I don't care what happens. Get me the fuck out. I will go to prison. I would rather be at fucking LCI.
Yeah, everybody would rather be at prison than Cuyahoga County.
Everybody would rather be anywhere.
It's also
I'd rather be in fucking Kiev. Right? Like if you gave me the choice, go pick up a fucking rifle and stand a post on the eastern border of Ukraine, or go to Cuyahoga County jail for 6 months. Give me the fucking bulletproof vest. Let's go.
That's the place to be.
Yeah, but that's exactly it, though. I mean, it's a tool of coercion, and it does the biggest thing that separates rich from poor in the system is bail, right? Because not to brag too much or whatever, we do a damn good job, right? Like public defenders get a very bad rap,
a shitty rap.
Yeah, but like everybody who's at that office with me gives a shit. Right. They're in it for the right reasons. We're certainly not in it for the goddamn money. And we'll fucking fight for you, man. You want a trial? Let's go. I love it. The biggest problem, though, is the biggest disparity is if you have money, like you said, Antoine, like if you have money, you can live your normal fucking life while you're waiting for your trial or you're waiting for whatever. And that takes away a tremendous incentive to plead out. Right. Because, like, joking aside, that is a real thing. You're under 23-hour fucking lockdown all the time.
23-hour lockdown.
Imagine
you're
that.
Pretty much in solitary confinement.
Or you're in the same cell with 3 other fucking dudes and you're sleeping on a mattress on the floor.
Right. On the floor? I've been through that. On the floor. Yeah. It's not even cool. I said, bro, what do you mean? Just put it on the floor. Like, dude.
You're playing the same fucking game of cards against the same 3 idiots for, months. Right. That'll make you plead, man. And your case is getting continued, and especially with COVID, even still, we're working through the backlog of COVID trials. So we've had people who've been in jail in the Cuyahoga County Jail for 2+ years. Wow. Waiting for trial. And
it's ridiculous.
It will incentivize you to plead. And the idea, it's so perverse because the idea is, we want to make sure you come back to court. Most people, 90+% of people who are out on what are called personal bonds, signature bonds, whatever, which is just you sign a piece of paper promising
you're going to come back to court.
Scout's honor, you're going to come back to court. 90+% of those people come back. Right. Because they know that if they don't, they're going to go get arrested and then they're going to go sit in jail.
Mm-hmm. And you never want to get arrested like unknowingly, you know what I'm saying? Right. Like your brake light's out, but you didn't go to court. Oh man, you're going to jail. It don't matter what you had planned. If you're going to work or anything,
you have your kid in the car.
Yeah, you're going. Mm-hmm. You're going to jail.
Yes.
Once they run your name, they're gonna be like, "Step out the car, please." Like,
once you have that, oh my god, yeah. And that's it. And so,
that's enough incentive right there.
Yeah. And people know that. People aren't stupid. Mm-hmm. People aren't as manipulative and dumb and horrific or whatever as the broader public,
the system,
likes
as
to
the
imagine.
Media likes to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And of course the people that get focused on are the worst of the worst, obviously, because that's what gets you fucking clicks.
I mean, some people's cousins, they don't go to court. That's a thing. But like you said, majority of people go in the family. You know what I'm saying? But everybody got a cousin or two that's just like, they're gonna have to come and get me. Like, well, damn, why don't you just go to court and just handle the shit?
Right. I mean, and that's the thing too, is like, people are generally conscious of the idea that you got to deal with this eventually. right? Like this isn't going away. You don't have enough money to flee to Caracas or whatever.
Right.
So like it's going to come back to you at some point.
You flee to Caracas because you ran a stop sign and you didn't go to court.
Right. Like, yeah, like, exactly. My like F4 drug possession or whatever. Let me flee to Venezuela. Yeah. But like even more serious shit, you know, people recognize like even felonious assaults and stuff like that. Like people come back to court. Mm-hmm. And also like, the idea in a lot of people's heads is, you know, there's these very serious crimes that are alleged, horrific allegations, whatever. So we have to set a high bond. But all you're saying is like, well, that's fine. You can be out in the community if you're wealthy.
If you're rich.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. If you're rich, you can literally murder somebody.
Right. Yeah.
And be out on bond. Like it happened
Simone
here.
Biles' brother was a free man that whole time. You know, it sounds like maybe they railroaded him. I don't mean to make it sound like he's fucking guilty or whatever, but like he was a free man that whole time on a very, very serious fucking like homicide charge.
There was a guy here that was.
Or well, because, you know, Simone had money.
Yeah.
I don't even know who he was. I don't even know who his parents were, but he walked up to a car and shot 2 people here. And then went to court. They put $1 million bond. They paid that shit. He stayed out of jail until trial, got convicted, committed suicide. Ooh. Like, dude.
So he's got like a whole fucking year and a half free out. And,
but if he was poor, he would have just been committed suicide because he would have been stuck in jail.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, you know, people fucking kill themselves, and there are people OD on drugs, and they're, you know, there's fights constantly. And it's a miserable goddamn place to be. And so it acts as a method of coercion, because when you are under those conditions, you can't think clearly. Right. You can't help me help you as much as someone who's out of jail can.
I mean, you can't really either, because like, yeah, you're coming in there like, but you're coming from like outside that situation. Like they're coming to meet with you from like the most horrible shit they're ever going through in their lives.
Right.
And then they get like meeting with you is also a break from what they have to go back into. So they're like, probably like their minds are just jogged.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, that's why my people who are in prison, I like to meet with them, you know, at least once a week, once every other week, even if nothing's going on, just so they can get the fuck out of there for a second. You know, I've sat with a dude and like put up a basketball game on my laptop and just gave him a fucking Snickers bar for a second. You know what I mean? Like it's so awful. It is a crime against humanity what goes on in that jail.
My question is, how much of these fucking crimes, right, like that are having the most amount of people sitting down, like how many of them are straight up just victimless crimes? Like fucking like.
So, I mean, it's hard. A lot of them, because a lot of them, you know, what I want to one of my big things too that I want to talk about is the idea of separating like nonviolent and violent crimes, right?
And quick question: didn't you have something you needed to say before you started?
Right. Yeah, good. Thank you. Cut this or put this at the top of the episode or whatever. But I am supposed to say that nothing I'm saying today reflects the views of the Cuyahoga County Public Defender's Office. I speak for myself and no one else. Thank you.
Got you. Yeah, I just remember you saying that. I was like, I don't think he said it at the beginning.
No, good looking out. No, but one of the things that I also do really want to harp on is this distinction between violent and nonviolent crimes, because I think, especially a lot of like, you know, liberals, and I say that coming from a leftist perspective, like a lot of liberals have this idea of like, oh, the war against drugs is the big driver of things, which it is in some respects, but you know, they vastly overestimate the number of people who I represent or who are sitting in jails and prisons whose only offense is drug related. You know, or whose only offense is marijuana. Those people are almost, not entirely, but almost all gone from the prison.
Right. Yeah. Especially marijuana. I understand that. Yeah. Like, I was thinking more along lines of like felony cocaine possession, shit like that.
Yeah. That stuff still exists. Those people mostly are given signature bonds, even who are trafficking it. At least in this county, I can't speak for, you know, anything more broadly, but at least in this county, most of those people are out until whatever disposition of their case. The people who often are not are people who get who the people who are often not out, who I would put in that category, are people who
with gun charges,
with guns. Yes. Yes. Because gun control is fucking racist.
No, yeah, for sure.
100%.
I was the happiest in the motherfucking world when Ohio passed the CCW.
I was literally just getting ready to ask you that.
I'm so happy.
The number of clients I have who are young black men from the east side of Cleveland whose only charge is carrying concealed without a permit.
Okay, so question about like, do you have cases right now that are that were arrested pre-change of the law?
Yes.
So what happens in this situation?
We're all about to find out.
Okay.
They're gonna still charge them.
So there's a lot of them are getting dismissed, is my understanding. It's all still pretty brand new. So there's not, the prosecutor's office doesn't have an official policy yet. The legislature, in their infinite fucking wisdom, did not specify whether the law was retroactive or not, which means there's going to be a big knockdown, drag out fight at some point in like the state Supreme Court about how we should interpret this and what that means. That hasn't happened yet. It's going to be probably like 5 years before that happens. Different judges in this county will do different things. I know some of them have already said, like, you know, go shove it up your ass. Basically, we're done. We're not. I am not prosecuting. You know, if the defense even raises the issue, I am dismissing every CCW case.
Gotcha.
There are others who will stick to the like, well, you know, it took effect on whatever May 1st, 2022, and you got arrested April 30th. That sucks for you, huh?
Yeah, because you're a fucking bitch. That's why it sucks for me, because you're a bitch. The fuck is the matter with you?
So the answer is we'll find out together. You know,
Which is not
So it's
an
literally
answer
a
for the
case by
public.
case basis, though, based on what kind of person the judge is, or
Literally,
if he's got to stick with his ass that day.
That's the system, though. The system is literally a case by case, judge by judge fucking thing. Like, people will tell, like, if you get a certain judge, people will tell you, like, you're about to go to prison.
Yep.
Like, there's no way around it. There's nothing we're going to be able to, like, that's what happened to Hav. Like, when he had 4 lawyers, like, I don't even want to take the case.
Because of the judge.
Yeah. Because they knew he was going to prison. Like, when they looked at his case, they were like, you're going. Your judge and your charges just add up to prison.
Yeah. Yeah, when we're not, but yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing too, is the system is incredibly arbitrary, and the most important day of your life, if you're charged with a felony, is when you walk into arraignment for the first time and they draw your judge, because that's going to determine potentially how the next like 10 years of your life are going to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you're about to have a felony or not.
Yeah.
So I do have a clarifying question about what you would like, the distinction between violent and nonviolent crime. Does, like, beforehand, did CCW laws, like, was that classified as technically a violent crime?
Yeah, this is going to be the most annoying lawyer answer in the world.
Okay.
It depends.
Gotcha.
If you're black or if you're white. If you're black and you got a gun that's hidden, violent.
So this, I feel bad for not knowing this off the top of my head. The Ohio Revised Code classifies things as violent and nonviolent. CCW alone, to my understanding, is a nonviolent crime. But there are ways to make it violent. And there are specifically things like burglary, for instance, is defined as breaking in through force, stealth, or deception. And I love the deception one, like you pretend to be the Avon. But you know, force, stealth, or deception, you enter a place that you know or reasonably should believe is currently occupied, and you commit a felony offense within, a theft offense.
That's burglary.
That's burglary. You commit a theft offense within. That is a violent crime. That is always considered a violent crime.
Even if you don't
even if no one is actually home.
But you think somebody could be home.
Well, if it's
that's what he said.
The law in all its majesty. The thing is whether it would be reasonable that someone is home.
Reasonable. 2 PM. Is it reasonable? No, because everybody's at work.
Well, or yes, unless basically, are you black? It's shit like that. So even if you break into a house that has no one in it, right? If it is, in such a situation that it would be reasonable to believe that your average person would think somebody's probably home. It's a burglary, felony 2 burglary. It's a violent crime. And it's not expungible ever. Even if you know, even if I kind of break open your front door a little bit and steal the Amazon package you left by the front door, leave, and you never know that I'm there. That's a burglary. That's a violent crime. You can never get it off your record, and there's the rest of your life.
I did not know that.
I got a question.
Even in a situation where you've actually fucking gotten through like via deception somehow, right? Like I put on a fucking stupid outfit. I sneak past. I take something like no amount of violence happened whatsoever. Even if I encountered the people, still burglary, still fucking violent crime. Crazy. Yes. That's crazy.
How can I steal something
without being violent
and not be burglary?
Yeah, facts.
It has to be from like a store.
Please teach us how to do crime.
So I want to preface this by saying I actually have an ethical obligation to not teach people to do crime.
Okay.
However, what I will say is,
so I asked the question wrong.
Yeah.
What is the charge? That is like a non-violent theft.
So there's an F4 version of burglary. Which is basically you take away the reasonable belief that someone's home. And so the answer, as it turns out,
so it's like casing essentially.
Yes.
Okay,
that is legitimately the answer.
So it has to be really premeditated.
So if I plan the fuck out of my robbery,
yes, okay, yes,
it makes it lesser of an offense.
There is. And this is kind of, I think it was just an 8th district, which is like Cuyahoga County's appellate court. I don't think the state Supreme Court, but I could be wrong. But there is some case law where they just cased the joint really well, and their defense at trial was, look,
I knew exactly when they would be there.
Exactly when they were going to be there.
Okay. Good to know.
And it worked. The appeals court said, well, yeah, this is an F4, not an F2.
Wow. I mean, hey, knowing the law helps.
Yeah.
So that takes it from being down to a non-violent.
That makes it non-violent. That makes it expungible. That's a tremendous amount of difference. And there's nothing factually different
between what happened
or morally different or whatever.
If anything, you did more crime.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like you planned it. Like you sat there outside this guy's house.
I'm pretty sure with every other kind of crime that makes it worse.
Right. But no, it's smart crime.
Yeah,
it's smart crime.
You took
out the element of like there may possibly be something bad that happened here because this person I know left. So they're not going to try to attack me or stop me. Yeah. I'm not going to have to fuck them up to steal their TV.
So whoever robbed our house, right? Whoever robbed our house.
Factually, they did it right.
Yeah, they didn't burglarize us. They didn't burglarize us.
Well, it's still a burglary. It's just a lower level.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's non-violent burglary.
Yeah.
No.
And he didn't teach us how to do crime.
No. Yeah,
explain the difference.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Right. I educated the public about the appellate courts.
These are good things to know.
Yeah.
Well, because, I'm not stealing anything. But
if I did?
There was a time in my life where I was stealing some things, right? And I never knew that, these were going to get me a violent crime.
Yeah, no, literally. No.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, too, is, the whole presumption of the entire system is that you are assumed to know what the law is, right? Like it's ignorance of the law is not a defense. It's a common thing. Nobody knows what the fuck the law is.
But I barely know what the fucking law is. Nobody taught us the law.
Well, that's the thing is you should, in an ideal world, when you graduate high school, know the law. What the fuck? At the very least, you should know how the court system works, right? Like, if you are charged with a crime, here's what you can expect. Here are the things that happen. Nobody fucking knows that.
They were on Schoolhouse Rock one day out of my whole K through 8 fucking.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you get here's what a jury is. You know what I mean?
Literally. Mm-hmm.
The people don't. And I could do a whole fucking hour on this, but people don't know how the system works. They don't know what the steps are. They don't know, frankly, half the time who I fucking am, or let alone how the appellate courts work or how the Supreme Court works or what any of this actually fundamentally means. Mm-hmm. And even as an adult, I'm very sorry. Criminal justice journalism fucking sucks. Yeah. It's so bad. It is miserable at explaining what any of this shit actually means. Right, because every time there's some famous murder or whatever that makes the news, you get the headline the Streetsboro clown killer pleads not guilty, and then no follow up ever about how the case is going or what ultimately happens with it or whatever. Maybe at sentencing or trial you get a follow up,
right?
But they present the he's in court pleading not guilty as though it's news. That's literally what everyone does,
right?
You have
That's how you get a trial.
Yes, to get access to me, the first time you're in court, you plead not guilty, then I show up and say, hey.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because if you're like, I'm guilty, then they're just going to put your ass in jail.
Right. And they won't, most courts and most judges won't let you plead guilty your first time there because they want you to talk to a lawyer. They want you to, understand what the hell's going on. If you have a defense, whatever. Because if you plead guilty the first time you're there and then go, oh, shit, like I shouldn't have done that, the appellate court will probably overturn it and you'll be back there and they don't want to deal with that. And so it's just frustrating how purposefully, I think, little people know about what actually happens, I
mean, the only way to find out is to find out.
Go through it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You start taking your ass to court, you're like, this is fucked up.
Yeah. Well, that's my I'm going to plug a thing that doesn't exist yet, but that's my big post-COVID idealistic project is there's a group in New York City that is like court watchers. That's, a lot of retirees and, people who work nights and whatever. Like we'll just go to court and sit in some courtroom and go watch what happens and take notes and, report on it or whatever. And that's the only way to find out what the fuck happens in that building.
So is there legality with like filming in court? Like you're not allowed to do that?
You have to, in Cuyahoga County, you have to ask first. And almost certainly during trial, you wouldn't be, it depends on the judge and depends on a lot of shit, but they're public courtrooms. You can go sit in there. Like you have an absolute right as a member of the public, other than like certain very specific hearings. You have the right to just hang out there all day. It is.
It's not going to piss the judge off.
I mean, it might, but you have the right to do it.
I don't be playing with that right shit.
Yeah, a lot of the judges who would get pissed off are the ones that I would want people watching the most.
Like, that's what I'm saying. You already know the ones that are mad are the ones that don't like. Yeah. They're like, hey, get the fuck out of here. Well, you're just trying to cause a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
you've been causing problems. Send motherfuckers to prison.
People who are morally questionable fear the light the most, right? Like that's the, people who know that what they're doing is not going to be well received, fear exposure the most. But, you have an absolute constitutional, it's a speedy and public trial. Right. In the Constitution for a goddamn reason. You have an absolute right to just show up there tomorrow, go to any goddamn courtroom you want and sit in the back quietly all goddamn day.
Hey, court's pretty interesting, man.
It is. Like
some weird shit stories. Like one time, I didn't show up for traffic court, right? I was like, I'm gonna go handle this, but I know when traffic court is because it's the same time every week, and I've been to traffic court a lot. So I was like, I'm just gonna show up when traffic court is happening, so I could just see the judge. You know what I'm saying? Like, my bad. You know what I'm saying? I'm here now. I showed up. It was Parma. Uh-oh. Right when I show up, they're like, you can't do that. Arrest me. Arrest the shit out of me. Put me down in the jail. I'm in the jail like, yo, I would turn myself in. They're like grabbing my balls and shit. Like, Jesus. What are you bringing in? Like, dude, I literally am turning myself in to go to court. What would I bring here? And then they put me there. I'm like, so can I go to traffic court? They're like, no, you got to wait for criminal court. I'm like, I'm not even criminal. Like, I'm here for traffic court. So they left me in there until criminal court, and I had to wait all the way until the end of criminal court. So I got to listen to everybody's cases. I was like, yo, this shit is entertaining. There's some crazy stories in there. People are doing some crazy shit. Yeah. And then they're giving even crazier explanations for why they did it. Like, dude, why are you saying these things to this person?
The fuck up.
Yeah, don't be in there trying to. No, I see. Yeah, that people can't represent themselves.
And look, it's not even like I'm not trying to take the the public is stupid kind of line or whatever. Right. You wouldn't rewire your own goddamn house. Right. Like I wouldn't do open heart surgery on myself. You know what I mean? Like I am a specialist for a goddamn reason. And it's because they make this shit so fucking opaque. They make it
purposely obtuse, fucking hard to access, fucking like it's the reason shit's written in legalese. Like I never understand that shit. Like I'm like, why isn't it just written in plain English? Like why aren't laws and shit just written in plain fucking English?
The only thing that
it's like a game kind of. You got to read it a couple times and imagine a Shakespeare story and then you get it. You'll understand what they're trying to say.
The only thing, because law school doesn't teach you how to actually practice law at all. the only thing I learned was how to like read that shit and understand what they were fucking saying. It took 3 years, but I did it, you know, and it's mind blowing.
You got the cipher to the fucking code in law school.
Yeah.
Word.
I learned
okay,
a
that's
language.
what that is. Gotcha.
Yeah. I spent 3 years learning a language. That's not useful anywhere else but one specific place. But it's
a very important place.
Well, only because we've decided it. You know what I mean? Like it's ludicrous though that we expect you guys to know the ins and outs of every fucking law, and you are expected to know every page of the Ohio Revised Code.
It's crazy. They tell you, like, if you're gonna represent yourself, you're expected to know everything.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to help you. One single bit.
Nope.
No, not even one iota.
Got to learn the rules of evidence.
And it will piss the judge off.
Yes.
If you do something wrong.
Yes.
Which is then just going to fuck you in the case because they're going to be like, this idiot.
Yes.
Didn't want to get counsel. Now they're wasting my time because they don't know the procedures of the court. And it's going to just look bad for you.
Yeah. So my question is for you. If you ever do any crime, you gonna represent yourself?
No, I absolutely would not.
I mean, because you'd be under too much duress, right?
Well, I mean, so when the Supreme Court decided the case was called Gideon versus Wainwright. It was the case that expanded that created the public defender system.
Okay,
and one of the things that they said in the opinion was that we know how important it is to have a lawyer because every lawyer that we've ever known who's gotten charged with a crime hires a lawyer. Okay. And absolutely, if I ever got in fucking trouble, I would hire somebody else immediately. You know, and because part of it too isn't even just the knowledge of the law; it's that you're too close to the situation, right? Like you're too close to what's happening. It affects you so personally. You need someone. You couldn't give yourself therapy. Right. You need someone dispassion. You need somebody. You need a third party.
You can't give yourself therapy. I'm contrary to that, man. I think that I give myself therapy.
I mean, you know,
I don't know how well it works.
Well, hey, I mean, I watched a couple months ago a client who went without an attorney win a rape case. So, you know, it works sometimes. I'm not here to judge anybody. That was an amazing day for comedy in our office because the prosecutor who was on that, man, what an embarrassment. It's like the Globetrotters losing to the fucking Generals, man. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's just not supposed to happen.
No.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're allowed to answer this question.
No, I'll tell you if I can.
How much of the system and like me getting off, right? If I did a crime, right? How much of that would be based on like politics and like who I hire and what lawyer and what judge get matched up together? And does that shit really make a difference? Because I know what I feel and I just want to know what somebody in the court every day feels.
I would say it can make a difference. I think you'd be stupid to say it doesn't ever. And certainly, you know, it's like baseball's a game of inches, right? Like even if it doesn't make a tremendous amount of deal, you're playing for every fucking break you get, right? Because once you have that indictment paperwork in your hand, let's be honest, you're behind the fucking 8 ball, right? Like it is, even if you're not in jail, it is guilty until proven innocent a lot of the time. And you are fighting a tremendous uphill battle. So every fucking break you can get is going to matter. You know, if it is like, yeah, I hired this attorney because this judge loves him, or, you know, whatever the case may be, you know, and it's, especially if you are already kind of a political figure or you already have some sort of cachet, it certainly doesn't hurt. I'll put it that way. But I will say generally, you know, and I don't know your specific situation, but I would say if you were an average person without political connects, I think that stuff can matter, but will not make a difference. Will not make the difference generally. You know, you're maybe going to get some breaks that you weren't, but you're going to be, if you don't have a tremendous amount of money or a tremendous amount of political sway yourself already, they're going to be looking to fuck you no matter what. You know, you can make differences with the attorney you hire. You can make differences if they know the judge. You can make differences in our office. Frankly, some of us are like tighter than some of the private bar with some, you know, some judges or whatever. And so I think it's that part of it is less corrupt. I guess to put a short answer on a long answer, I guess that part of it is less corrupt
than one might expect.
Than one might expect. But it is a lot about personalities more than, I guess, a pure like real politic.
So how much of like your independent job comes down to your relationship with the prosecutors for real? Like,
a decent amount. I mean, it's one of those weird things, and I'm going to be very careful with what I say here. But it's one of those things I'm on the same floor all the time. And so it's the same prosecutors and I see them all the time. And so I am cordial always to them. I have problems with defense attorneys who are out buying prosecutors drinks and shit. I think that's not a good look necessarily. But I think in general, my attitude, which has worked fairly well, is, be polite. Don't lose my temper for no reason, but make damn sure they know that, this is my stance and this is where, this is our position. We're going to trial, or we're not going to, or this is the deal we want, or whatever, So it matters. And there's no point to going in just to piss somebody off. And being friendly matters, but also it matters that they know that you're going to stand up for some shit.
Right.
Because you can be friendly and fucking chill with them and go golf with these guys or whatever. But that to me, honestly, and your mileage may vary, but a lot of the time to me, that signals more, I'm going to fold and do what you guys want to do because I value this relationship more than I value my client.
My follow-up question to that was, do some games feel like the champion, or do some cases feel like a championship game, and do some feel like a regular season game?
Every fucking trial feels like the championship game. Every single one. I am the most anxiety-prone guy in the fucking world. The like 3 days before a trial starts are the worst I feel in my entire life.
Even if it's like a simple trial, like that you feel like you got it in the bag?
I never feel like I have it in the bag because there's no such thing in this fucking system.
Because it's guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, because everything about it is horrible and juries are unpredictable. And unfortunately, juries in Cuyahoga County, despite it being a majority black county, are incredibly white. So
I'm pretty sure it's by design.
Yeah, incredibly white, incredibly suburban. There's a lot of things that go into that. But, the jury pool is not representative of the population and certainly not representative of my client base. And so there's a lot of things that can go fucking wrong. And
I don't know a lot of people that have been invited to jury duty.
I don't either, to be honest.
And I've lived in the city of Cleveland
my whole life.
Yeah. For my whole life. In these couple, like in this vicinity here, like a 5-mile radius.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot of people. I may have heard of like two people maybe.
Well, because the thing is, they take it out of the voter rolls. And so there's a lot of problems with voter disenfranchisement, a lot of problems with people who just don't think correctly. So, to be honest, that there's any point in them fucking registering to vote.
Right.
There's a lot of problems with people changing addresses a lot. And so maybe they're getting the mail, they're getting summoned, but it's going to the wrong address. Whereas, your average 70-year-old retiree from Parma has lived in that same house for 30 years and has, nothing else going on, doesn't need to provide childcare, doesn't need to still be providing for his family at 70 because he's got a UAW pension. And so, he'll show up.
Right.
So
how much of like what you're doing to help out your clients is you just trying to get better people on the jury for them?
Oh, that's the most important part of a trial. Absolutely the most important part of a trial. The one thing that I will say that I think a lot of the like post George Floyd stuff has felt kind of like a grim slog because like there are not a whole lot of tremendous legislative successes. Every police department in the country somehow has more money than they did before.
Naturally.
While politicians are yelling about police being defunded, somehow they all have millions more dollars.
Yeah.
And, bail reform is kind of going nowhere in a lot of places. New York State wants to roll back their bail reform. But the one thing that I've seen and that our office has seen, and I've watched, a tremendous amount of trials that our people in our offices put on. People on jury pools that you would not normally expect to raise the issue are raising the issue of the racial composition of the jury pool. and raising the issue of, are we truly a jury of this guy's peers?
Right.
You know, I sat in on a murder trial that one of my colleagues did and won. But I knew they were going to win when this mid-40s teacher from, I don't know, Rocky River or something, said in response to some question, you know, I don't really think we can be a jury of this guy's peers. There's 12 white guys here.
That's that shift in the Overton window. Right,
exactly.
Like, that's what that is.
Like on the ground, like at least from my very anecdotal and very limited perspective, like even when I started practicing, which is not that long ago, like 5 years ago, even then, you would not get that question from a juror. And I've heard that multiple times, or variants of that multiple times in different trials. People are recognizing, at least to some degree, and you know, the degree to which that's going to translate into any actual like policy action, right. I don't know. But at least
who cares about the will of the people?
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, and I think that right. There's all sorts of reasons for that. We don't live in a democracy. It sucks. But you know, I think on the ground, even like people who I would have otherwise categorized as like dipshit suburbanites, no offense, suburbanites, would, you know, are recognizing that there's a problem, right. And, you know, and that. When they're on a jury, they recognize that like I have an obligation to kind of address this. And so that's nice.
So when that kind of thing happens, right? Like what does that lead to? Does that lead to like just more conversation amongst the jury, or like could that end up leading to like a mistrial or something like that? Not
a mistrial. Okay. I mean, not unless the conversation goes real weird from there. But it led to, in this specific instance, it led to a really, really fascinating conversation amongst the entire jury pool about what, you know, are we satisfying this guy's constitutional rights if 12 white people are judging this black kid? And the guy who prompted the question, the prosecutors kicked him out, but it was too late. Like right. The conversation had started. Like he, you know, and that's my goal. Not to give too much away, but that's the goal a lot of the time, is like spark a conversation that will get these people actually thinking about what they're there for and why they're there and what justice actually means to them.
Pivoting back to like what you had said, the main problem of bail was, what would you offer as an alternative to the current cash bail system? Like, would you say that we don't even need a system similar to that? Like just fucking people will come back because.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, so the system, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here. There's on paper, between changes in the Ohio legislature and a recent Ohio Supreme Court decision, on paper, the system looks like something similar to what I would design. So on paper, now the law in the state of Ohio is you as a judge, when you're setting bond, cannot consider cash bond for anything other than the person's flight risk. Right? If you're setting any amount, the presumption should be this person is going to get a personal bond. He's going to walk out of here. But, you know, there are certain things, you know, if they've got a lot of failures to appear in the past, if they've had to be extradited from another state, whatever, there's, you know, a bunch of certain things that then you can set a cash bond. But then you are supposed to inquire about the person's financial ability and set a bond that's within their means. Right. So you can't just set $100,000 bond if the person
makes $13,000.
Right. Could not possibly come up with $100,000. You know, you're supposed to have that inquiry. And then for more serious cases, you know, the state law does allow, if the court makes certain findings, that you can hold a person without bail. So if you think, hey, this guy, you know, just shot up a school or whatever, like, you know, the evidence is really strong. It's a serious offense. You know, there's specific categories of things, criteria, murder, rape, you know, the shit that you would think. You know, if it's one of these specific offenses and it's, you know, there's a lot of strong evidence against them, you know, and this and that, there's a list of findings they have to make. Then you can hold them without bail. You can just hold them. And that's functionally what they're doing to a lot of people, right? Like you can say like, oh yeah, you're entitled to bail, but if you got a $50,000 bond and you can't make 50 grand,
right,
you're being held without bail. Like functionally, you are being held without bond. And now, you know, we have all sorts of alternative like you can slap a GPS bracelet on somebody, you know, if they're, you know, which they do in a lot of like domestic violence cases for fairly obvious reasons, like stay away from this lady.
So do they get matching bracelets at that point? I got a matching bracelet with my fucking abuser.
So I don't mean to joke about it. Some of these people probably would, but yeah, we have two. You can make them report to a probation officer while the case is pending. Right. You can, you know, do all sorts of other things that will ensure that, you know, we're regularly touching base with this person. Maybe we've got a GPS and we know where they are. You know, you can make them surrender their passport or their driver's license, you know, stuff like that to ensure that, like, yeah, nobody's going to get hurt while this guy's out on bond. But, you know, and, you know, hey, put the ankle bracelet on. We know where he is. But there's no reason for a cash bail, frankly, at all.
Yes, I just feel like if there's reasonable evidence that they did something really fucked up, then just keep their ass in jail until the trial's over. Right. And if not, then their ass goes home and they get a court date. Well, that's the thing, because it's the same calculus as we talked about before, even with like, you know, $1 million bond is typical in like an aggravated murder. But right to your point, like, so if somebody makes that, all you're saying is it's fine for this guy to be out if he has $1 million. Not even $1 million, 10%. Yeah. Yeah. If he has 100 grand, right, he can murder. Yeah. If you have enough money, it's fine. You could, you know, your crime's so heinous, we got to give you this high bond. But if you can actually make it, it's fine. You can be out in the community. We don't care anymore then.
So I know a lot of criminals, and a lot of their complaints are on the opposite end of jail, where fucking like parole and shit like that. Probation. Man. How much of like do you end up dealing with a lot of like people that have violated, that were just violated for some bullshit, and they're now facing fucking the remainder of whatever their sentence was, plus an additional violation, blah, blah, blah type shit? Like, is that a lot of your work, or? It's
a reasonable amount. So like the thing about it is I want to make a distinction, because we call it parole colloquially, but it's not truly parole, at least in Ohio. Because what parole used to be was you were doing, you know, let's say 10 years, and you apply to the parole board, and you're eligible to get out at 6, let's say. And then they hold the other 4 over your head, right? Unless you're, you know, make sure you're a good boy.
So that's not what's happening currently. No, in Ohio. Okay. No. All right. So yeah, I didn't even.
Well, they're serving your whole sentence.
Yes. So Christ, this is, I hate it. Every time I explain this shit, it sounds crazier when I say it out loud. So that does happen sometimes. Okay. And I'll get to that. But the more common thing is you serve your whole sentence, and then you're put under what's called post-release control, which is what we used to call parole, and is confusingly run by the Adult Parole Authority. But it's not parole, because you're not getting out early. You have served your whole sentence.
And now you're just under watch.
But they can put you, depending on the crime, for some number of years after your release, under post-release control, and you have to report to a parole officer, and, you know, get drug tested and alcohol tested and all this shit. You know, you have to have gainful employment generally. If you even have an interaction with a police officer, you have to report it to your PO, even if it's a fucking speeding ticket,
or even if like they came to a party that you were at, or
even if they asked you to be a witness in an offense that you didn't do and weren't related to, you have to report it to your PO. And I will say, you know, there are bad POs out there. The number of people dinged for that level of technical shit is pretty minuscule. You've got to be pretty unlucky for that to like really harm you. But your whole life is still under watch, and you have served your sentence. You are done. You did the time. But let's say, just to make it easy, you did 2 years in prison, right?
That was your full sentence, 2 years.
That's your full sentence, 2 years. You do the full 2 years. You get out. You're put on post-release control for, let's say, another 2 years, just to make it easy. You can get, if you violate parole, you can get ultimately 1 more year in prison.
And then another 2 years on the increments.
Yeah, it is nuts. without, by the way, really any judicial oversight. You don't
Right.
go back in front of a judge. There is a process where technically you're entitled to counsel and there's a hearing before an administrative board, but it's frankly fucking meaningless when the rubber meets the road.
Right.
If your PO wants to give you the time, you're going to do the fucking time ultimately. Because I've heard of maybe one time in my life where that admin board didn't do
What the PO suggested.
and the thing is, you are put between a rock and a hard place because let's say the reason that you violated is you got charged with a new crime. Now, you've just gotten charged with a new crime. You haven't been convicted, but being charged is enough to violate you and send you back to prison. And if you insist on having that hearing rather than just submitting and doing your extra time, if you insist on having that hearing, they get to ask you about the alleged crime you just committed, and you don't get to plead the fifth. Or if you plead if you plead the fifth, you just lose, and you might as well not have had the hearing at all. So, for being charged with a crime, you can go back to prison for potentially a long fucking time, and you have no meaningful opportunity to defend yourself. And again, this is just for getting charged with a new crime.
Right.
No, you do not have to be convicted of it. And even if you start serving your additional time and you're acquitted at trial, they can still run the they can run the whole time.
That's crazy.
So if you get a 9-month PRC sanction is what they call it. If you get a 9-month little extra top off at Lorraine, and somewhere in that 9 months you're acquitted of the new charge, hey, tough shit, man. Enjoy the extra 3 months. We'll see you later.
That's crazy. And then after that point, once you get released, that 2 years resets again, correct? Like the supervisory. I forget the words that was used.
It can. A lot of the time, it depends.
Okay.
It can. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Sorry. I mean, no, they don't get to keep running the clock. Like
Okay.
That.
Okay.
If you go to if on that new crime though, let's say you get charged with something, you get the 9-month sanction, and then
you get
convicted, and they sentence you to a year. Then that clock restarts when you get out. Yeah. Then you got to hold it. Yes. Then you're stuck with it.
Got some bullshit.
Yeah. So you guys said you were going to make jokes, but
we made some jokes.
no.
I mean, that one's just some bullshit because it's just like.
Well, you would think that, I mean, it's just so fucked up because one, you would think you would have to have a judge involved somewhere to sentence you to prison. Yeah. At some point,
Right.
You'd have to involve a judicial officer.
Nope.
No. And at some point you would think you'd have to be like convicted of something in some sort of court to go to prison.
Right.
But again, no.
So in these circumstances, these people literally don't have access to you, like as a public defender.
So this is where the state public defender runs a service that assists these people. I am not familiar with the nuts and bolts of it. I know there are attorneys involved, but my understanding is it's a very tilting at windmills kind of gig, even more than mine.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I could be wrong about that. But this is my understanding from talking to like my clients who have gone through it, and from other attorneys in our office. But so there are attorneys out there. You are allowed to, before you make the decision of having a hearing or not, like you're allowed to consult with an attorney. But my understanding is generally, especially when the violation is a new criminal allegation, the best legal advice these people can give is just take the sanction, because if you talk about what happened, you're going to fuck the underlying case. But I was to roll it back to the one time that parole is actually parole is when you have what's called an indefinite sentence, which is another fun little invention. There's a law in Ohio called Reagan-Tokes, the Reagan-Tokes law.
Okay.
And it is one of those like, I don't mean to demean this because it comes from a truly horrific case. This woman was a college sophomore at OSU, and this guy who had just recently got out of prison and was supposed to be monitored by the adult parole authority, but they weren't doing it, and he had violated a bunch of times and everything else, and they didn't send him back. like brutally like raped and murdered her.
Okay.
Like one of those like horrific eye popping, like in the news all the time things.
Right.
The problem with that is every time one of those happens, there's some law named after that person.
Right.
And the law that's named after them is usually one of the most horrific, like unconstitutional, defense unfriendly, racist things in the world. And this
because, we can point at the horrible act and be like, well, that happened.
Yeah. And it's one of those, like, again, like, I don't mean to like shit on her family or whatever. Like, I cannot imagine what that is like to go through. It's fucking horrific.
Horrible.
But the people who I can shit on are the members of the Ohio State Legislature who took advantage of that for political reasons,
right,
to make everybody feel real good and run for re-election. What Reagan Tokes does is for higher level felonies, instead of having a definite range, like you are doing 8 years, you set an indefinite range, which is the sentence 8 years plus or up to the sentence plus half the sentence. So 8 to 12. It is presumed that you'll be released at 8 years. But if you are misbehaving in prison and getting marked down for fighting or stealing or bringing drugs in or whatever,
you're doing 12 plus.
The Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, at its sole discretion, can extend your sentence in chunks until you get up to the 12 if they want to. And the thing is that there's no fucking oversight for when you get dinged and when you're in prison.
Right.
There's no one to appeal to.
You appeal to the warden.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You're like, warden, I didn't do it. Like,
the guard said you did, but
like if the CO says you stole an extra roll at lunch or whatever, you're not going to win that fucking fight.
Right.
And hey, there's another 30 days or whatever. And and when you couple that,
it's so crazy that you just say that, and it's so true. It's like, you steal a roll, they lock you in a box for 30 more days. Dude, what the fuck is the matter with people?
Well, I mean, and if you're of an extremely cynical or conspiratorial mindset, you couple that with the fact that, like, a significant amount of goods marked made in the USA are made by prison labor, and a lot of people have a lot of money.
I do have a question about Ohio here. We don't really have private prisons here, right? Like,
correct.
So do non-private prisons produce things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the biggest, that's another one of my problems with fucking liberals is the biggest problem with the prison system is not private prisons themselves. They never amounted to a significant amount of the prison population. Obviously we shouldn't have them. It's good that they're in many places going away. It's good that the feds are getting out of that. Whatever. That's great. Hooray.
They're still being contracted by like fucking Victoria's Secret.
The
and shit.
problem is public prisons still make all this shit.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Like people in public prisons are working for 20 cents a day or whatever, making Kevlar vests and those fucking stupid ass white plastic lawn chairs.
Right.
All of those are made in prisons, by the way, every single one of them. And so we're producing for private companies a tremendous amount of shit with prison labor.
Yeah.
And it's all in public prisons. It's all being funded by your tax dollars and supported by your tax dollars.
That's the caveat to the 13th Amendment, right? Like,
voluntary servitude and slavery prohibits. That's why they're giving drug offenders time in double digits. Yeah, that is the carve out to the 13th Amendment is you can, in fact, be forced to do slave labor if you have done a crime. I mean, that's what all the fucking firefighters in California that were doing that in public prisons. California, to my knowledge, does not have any sort of private prison. But it's
well, see, okay, I like this is where the like lightweight cognitive dissonance in my mind is like I didn't I heard the stories of like and then the news they presented it as an opportunity for people to earn time off their sentence, fucking fighting fires, blah blah blah, right? My cognitive dissonance is like, that's public service. That's not fucking forced labor, but no, it's 100% forced labor.
It's forced labor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's forced labor that you could die in.
Yeah. Facts.
Well, and the amount of time that you get off your sentence for any of this shit is fucking negligible.
Every fire you put out, you should get a year off.
Yeah. Ohio, I think like the work credit, it gets you like 5% off of your sentence, which is like
nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Days.
Yeah.
Literally days.
But there are people who have been dinged for refusing to do it, even though technically they're not supposed to do that. And you're right. You're working for 30 cents a day, making fucking jackets for J. Crew or whatever.
Right.
Or also just cleaning the prison.
Yeah, well, and ironically, American law forbids the importation of goods made by prison labor.
Yeah.
So,
Because then what would our prisoners do?
How are we going to support our economy?
Right.
The other prisoners are only costing half a penny a day.
Well, the other horrific part of it, more than private prisons, is what we've done, and it's similar to what we do with like weapons manufacturers, where, you know, there are entire towns whose entire fucking economy depends on the prison.
Yeah.
Mansfield, for instance.
Literally.
Who, no offense, Mansfielders, who would fucking live in Mansfield? Like, you know,
if they ever shut down the prisons, they have that once a year fucking ghost explore through the old
true.
Mansfield prison.
That'll get you. Yeah, they shot Shawshank there the one time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, they
throw
put
a Papa Roach concert there every year.
This is the stuff that Mansfield thrives on.
But yeah, purposefully, states put prisons in these, you know, smaller, you know, economically devastated places. And so then the economy fucking depends on it. Mm-hmm. You know, Mansfield's economy depends on there being a prison there. And it depends on the prison having a bunch of prisoners in it.
Right.
You know, and so one of the like more disgusting, like sad things is anytime there's a more draconian criminal law, some of the people, if you go look through the shit that are lobbying for it, are the lobbyists for these little fucking towns. Right. Like Mansfield will hire lobbyists to, like, some of these places lobbied for Reagan Tokes. Like lobby for severe, harsher criminal sentences because it will come back to their town. And if you do that job, I just want to say you're the fucking devil.
I didn't know that towns had lobbyists.
Yeah.
Like I thought lobbyists were primarily like fucking companies and shit.
Nah,
like
they need some little clients too.
Yeah, everybody's. I mean, the city of Cleveland has some. You know what I mean? Like anybody who wants to. There are legitimately like small scale lobbyists. There are people who like specialize in municipalities. Like, you know, I'll represent Dayton in the Ohio legislature, or you know, when I schmooze with the Ohio legislature or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. You need the little people need help.
Well, the little people who have enough money to hire somebody.
Yeah.
Well, like they ain't little, but
yeah.
The little big people.
Right.
They need to get their laws passed.
Yeah.
He's right, man. He's right. They need to lock more Clevelanders up so Mansfield can thrive.
Well, and
what the fuck?
And here's the other thing. When the state of Ohio is apportioning its legislature, when they're drawing congressional seats, the population of Mansfield Prison counts for Mansfield.
Yeah. Okay. So this was brought up to me the other day. Yeah. I was having an argument with somebody about like the fucking 3/5 compromise or some shit, right? Like fucking arguing old archaic bullshit. Like, and this motherfucker was like, yeah, it makes you think about how they still count the populations of prisons. And that shit blew my fucking mind. Yes. I was like, and they don't get no opportunity to vote while they're in prison. Nope. Fucking some states deny them after they get out of prison. Yep. Fucking that shit is, I didn't learn that until very recently.
Yeah.
They have them fill out a...
Well, they count.
What is that?
The census. Yeah,
the census. They have them all fill out a census.
Yeah, and you know that means that shit is infinitely more accurate than the census is taken in like Cleveland and shit.
I was gonna say, here's the depressing thing for a lot of these guys. That's the first census they've ever fucking taken their entire lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is despicable.
I wouldn't fill it out, just like I don't fill it out now.
Yeah. That's bad. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say you should fill it out now. But I will take this opportunity to tell anybody who's listening this in the state of Ohio, even if you're a felon, if you are not currently in prison, you can and probably should vote. A lot of people, I've gotten a tremendous amount of people that I know and clients who are just like, yeah, I guess I'll never vote again. And no, you can't. If you're not currently in prison, you can vote. So
didn't know that.
There's your PSA.
I did always hear that like other felons I know that they think they can't vote.
Yeah. And they want you to think that. Like there's never going to be a state of Ohio PSA that's like, hey, by the way, they would like you to think that because presumably.
No, there is. It's right now.
Yeah, right. I guess, right. Hey, I'm a government employee, so this is your state of Ohio PSA. If you're a felon, you can vote.
We'll get this out to a couple hundred people.
Yeah, and if you're in a county jail, if you're in a local jail, you can vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
From jail? Mail in?
Yeah.
You can be like, CO, bring me a mail-in voting thing.
The ACLU canvasses Cuyahoga County Jail every year.
Wow.
Yeah. To the extent that they're able, because that place is a fucking nightmare. But yeah.
So how much of your time do you spend like actually going into Cuyahoga County Jail? Like, do you go visit them directly in jail or do you pull them out? Okay.
I can't pull them out, regrettably. If I could, I'd take up a career in human smuggling. I'd lose my attorney job immediately.
I was imagining like there was another room within the same building that like they pulled them from.
Oh, so the jail has private meeting rooms and stuff for us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there are like holding cells on the court floors. Mm-hmm. And so if it's not a busy day up there, I can have meetings with people up there. Which is usually way easier for me than getting into the jail because, again, fucking logistical nightmare.
Do you feel like the Cuyahoga County Jail is a fire hazard?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It's an everything hazard. I don't know what kind of hazard it fucking isn't.
I don't get like who came up with this idea to like lock people up in some fucking cement blocks, 35 stories in the air. I don't understand.
It's a horrific fucking place, man.
It doesn't make sense.
It is also, I got to tell you, disgusting inside.
Oh, yeah. I've been in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah.
I knew a girl who had to live there for like 2 or 3 years because her crime was federal. So they don't have a girls' federal prison here.
Yeah.
So she was just stuck in the fucking Cuyahoga County Jail. Fucking
Jesus Christ. I think they do now, but like, holy fuck. I had heard that from somebody that they didn't used to. Like, I can't fucking imagine that.
This is pretty recent though. Go ahead. This was like pre-2020. Like she got out like right as COVID started.
Oh man. Well, one of the things that I mean, I don't know her specific situation, but that makes me think of I have clients who have federal stuff who are sitting in county jail because one of the other fucked up things is if you have a federal case and a state case, the time you're doing in one place doesn't count for the other. Like you don't get, if you're sitting in Cuyahoga County Jail and you have a federal warrant and a case in Cuyahoga County, you are not getting credit on your federal time.
That's crazy.
Not a single day. Not a single fucking day.
So, okay, there is a separate set of public defenders for federal cases, though, correct? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep. Yes. Also great people, at least in Cleveland. I worked there when I was in law school. I took that up instead of the Jones Day thing. But phenomenal fucking people. Yes. But yeah, the federal and state systems are completely separate. It is an absurd. This country is so fucking stupid. It's this absurd premise of what's separate sovereigns is what it's called. That like the federal government is a distinct and separate and equal entity to the states. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that often happens is, where it often comes up is double jeopardy, right? Like you can't be tried twice for the same crime. You can, though, if it's also a federal crime. So if you, in theory, this doesn't come up that often. It comes up sometimes and always in a way that like fucks people over. But in theory, you can get charged with a crime, Cuyahoga County, be found guilty, do a prison sentence, and then get charged in federal court for the exact same thing and do another sentence, do another number there.
What is an example of a crime that this could happen to me on?
Money laundering.
Guns.
Okay. Damn. Crossing state lines?
No. Okay. No. If you are a felon technically, being a felon in possession of a handgun is a federal crime. Mm-hmm. The thing is,
even if it's black powder,
if it's anything, even if the feds, the thing is, if the feds took up every single one of those, the federal criminal system would overload and collapse.
Right.
Right. Because there's way too many of them in Cuyahoga County alone. It would overwhelm the Northern District of Ohio federal court and engulf them. So they save it for people who there's a way in which your prior record can qualify you for what is called armed career criminal status. Thanks, Joe Biden. And that is a mandatory, I forget because I don't know federal law, but it's a mandatory 15 or 25 years. Mandatory minimum. 15 or 15
Did you
or
say
25.
thanks to Joe Biden because this was a part of like the 94 crime bill or some shit?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
So a lot of the time, if you are a felon in possession, if you have, the feds have to prove that you have a certain number of violent prior convictions, which again, that's why the fucking F2, F4 burglary shit's important, that you have to have a certain number of qualifying convictions. And then if you're found to be in possession of a gun and nothing else, you're looking at, I think it is 15, although someone who actually knows can fucking correct me, but you're looking at a mandatory decade plus. Let's just say that. For something that in the state of Ohio is a 3rd degree felony punishable by 9 to 36 months and is often probationable. Like often you'll get the F4 attempted having weapons under disability and get put on paper unless you've done it like 50 times.
For having a gun as a felon.
For having a gun as a felon. And it does not matter. I mean, I think it's the Rick Ross quote, better to be judged by 12 than buried by 6, right? Like, the people that I represent, a lot of them live in neighborhoods where, frankly, I would carry a fucking gun all the time. Like,
it's your right as an American to carry a gun all the time.
Yeah, right. We could dive into that fucking hypocrisy too. Like you have a fucking fundamental right, the Supreme Court has said, to carry a gun if you want. And so that should just apply to everybody. But, but very specifically, like I said, a lot of my clients have experienced so much fucking trauma and so much fucking shit. And frankly, I cannot ever blame any of these kids for carrying a fucking gun. But, and this again comes to, you're expected to know all these laws without ever even the thought crossing their minds. Some of these guys are risking decades in prison every time they go out carrying.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So, I was doing the same thing because I was carrying like weed and my gun with me all the time.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just carrying my gun just so I'll be safe. And I'm just carrying weed because I smoke weed.
Yeah.
But if I get caught, they're going to be like, you're a fucking grade A criminal, buddy. You got the gun. It's loaded and you got weed.
One of my former clients, the state dismissed the charge against him because unfortunately he is one of those people that he had the prior convictions and everything. The feds picked it up. But yeah, he worked at a bar. He was carrying a bunch of cash on him all the time. And so he had a fucking gun and he got pulled over at the wrong time. And now he's facing like 25 fucking years in prison.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. And not like not club fed either. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's...
See, that goes back to like my question earlier of like how much of fucking like the overall crime that you deal with as a public defender is like just bullshit that fucking literally is just, it comes from over policing instead of fucking actual like this person did something horrible fucking to fucking actually this happening.
Well, because they always try to be in this preventative policing mode to like, oh, we're stopping something from horrible happening. But like, if everybody had a gun, I always said this, if everybody had a gun, less violent shit would happen because motherfuckers would know, like, damn, he got a gun.
Well, I mean, it's like, look, if you wanted to go ruin Bay Village, right, all you would have to do is go send Cleveland PD there to go, irrespective of race, start pulling people over and looking through their cars, finding what they had on them, right? Because I've known some motherfuckers from Bay Village who carry tremendous amount of drugs on their person at all times. They just live with the knowledge that they're rich and white and, won't get caught, or if they get caught, they'll be able to buy their way out of it. If you started fucking...
Or that their likelihood of getting searched is fucking nil to none.
Yeah. If you started policing Bay Village the way that they police East Cleveland or even the east side of Cleveland proper, if you started policing Rocky River the way that they police black neighborhoods, you could ruin that community in a fucking heartbeat because guess what? You would tag so many motherfuckers out there with felony convictions.
Oh yeah, fucking felony cocaine convictions alone.
Right,
Fucking boost Mansfield's fucking economy so goddamn much.
You want to find some fucking coke and some Oxycontin? Let's go fucking police Rocky River.
Facts.
And that's the thing. And it feeds on itself so slowly because what you're creating is a community of people who have felony priors. And even a nonviolent felony prior where you didn't go to prison will fuck up the rest of your life, right? You can't get a student loan. You can't go to college, right? You're barred from certain jobs. You're barred from a lot of housing, a
felony function
feeds on itself. Yeah. And so then
even if you get that shit expunged still like that, it still fucks with you.
Yeah.
Because I've always said if you get a felony, you're a career criminal.
Yeah,
Yes.
Like you might as well just try to make it as high as you can in criminal world because you ain't making it in fucking regular society.
Yes. Well, and that's exactly it. Because next time, if you ever come back, God help you, then you're not catching that break again. 1, 2. Even if you don't ever get caught, you're pushed forever into an underclass.
Mm-hmm. Literally. Literal underclass.
Yes.
Like you will be denied work actively, fucking the whole 9.
And then, you talk about, and this all started fucking 50 plus years ago, more than that probably.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's crazy you could get a felony for doing cocaine.
Yeah.
Just having cocaine on you. You can't get a job.
Yeah.
And the owner of that company is doing cocaine in the office. In his office.
You know the number of fucking attorneys I know that I've seen do hard drugs?
Yeah.
I've seen police do hard drugs.
Right. Yeah.
Literal police.
It is right.
I've watched it. My own eyes. I was like, dude, this is some crazy shit right here.
It's peak fucking do as I say, not as I do, brought to you by the white upper class.
Yeah. That's facts.
And do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That's some fucked up shit.
And that's the thing. But once you start tagging people with these labels, once you start tagging people with the felony thing, and they're forced to live the way that you have to live, to your point, you might as well make it as a criminal because you're not going to fucking...
You either got to be an entrepreneur or a criminal.
Yeah.
After you get or an actor.
Yeah. Right.
You can become an actor and do pretty good for yourself.
Yeah. And so... Right, like your opportunities are so stunted, and so then your children grow up in an environment where their opportunities are also stunted because of yours, and the cycle goes on forever. And children learn from their environment, and I don't mean this to say that like my clients are not good parents, because most of them are. Most of them are wonderful parents, but you can only you're tied down by your class in this country.
Yeah. We both had pretty good parents, and we started doing drugs very young. Okay.
I wouldn't say my parents are bad. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they were pretty good compared to other parents in our neighborhood. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's just you devastate entire communities that way, and you concentrate, the housing that will allow these people, right? You effectively, in addition to the actual redlining, you fucking judicially redline places, essentially, because you're concentrating poverty.
And then you over police those areas on top of it.
And then you keep it going. The cycle never ends. Because now it's a high crime area.
Yep.
And that's where the police resources get spent. They're not going to Bracknell.
Right.
They're coming to East 105th.
That's a fact.
Right. And so it feeds on itself all the time. And so you keep catching people for even relatively minor things. And, even if your whole rap sheet is relatively minor shit, eventually you're going to draw the wrong judge. Somebody's going to send you to fucking prison. And then
you're fucked.
Fuck you. You
get sent to prison.
Our recidivism rate is what? Fucking like 40-50%?
It's incredibly high. I mean, prison doesn't rehabilitate people. We don't ever give people the chance to fucking rehabilitate themselves.
No, you keep getting punished once you get out.
Yes. Forever. And you're tagged. And again, you're tagged with a label. You're tagged with a label forever. Once you have, to your point, once you have the fucking felony conviction, you're a felon. That's it. That is who you are.
You better own it.
Yeah.
You better fucking own it. Because if you don't,
no,
you're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, and you got
to become a motivational speaker or something.
For real. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I've had clients in the past who have been able to overcome it, and it's possible. And I'm not saying, there's
any of your clients ever reach back out to you afterwards? Like, you fought hard for me.
I appreciate get some shots or something.
Yeah. Well, one of my first clients, I was very new to the practice of law. I was in private practice. I had my own firm, which was a disaster. Never doing it again. Made no money. Walked on the edge of malpractice all the time. Did not know what the fuck I was doing. Still
sounds like my company.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There was a lot of like, ooh, I'm not really sure I'm going to pay rent. I need somebody to commit a crime so that I can fucking pay rent.
Fucking turning to Saul Goodman, passing out phones and shit.
It really was. I mean, it was first season Better Call Saul, man. I was defending the head fucking kids for $250 or whatever. But one of my first clients had gotten an attorney appointed, a private attorney, who did not remember her name ever, and like was not doing a good job. And it was, one of my good friends, Kareem Hendon, he works for a group called the Bail Project. He helps people who cannot post bond. Mm-hmm. And it's a great group. You should give them your money if you're listening. But they follow up with people, make sure they're going to their court dates. They help people find employment and housing. It's a phenomenal organization. But so he hit me up. He was like, hey, like, I know you're new, but I know you're legit. Can you help this girl out? Also, she can't pay you. Okay. Also, it's a 2nd-degree felony. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm 11 months out of having passed the bar. Sure, fuck it.
Full send.
Yeah. And so the long story short is I kept her out of prison on it. We were kind of fucked on it. It was not a triable case. But, first time offender, we put on a very good sentencing presentation, whatever. And she reaches out to me every so often and is doing tremendously, like working, has not been in trouble since, like completed probation successfully. Like, and it's nice. It's nice to hear that. And there are people who can overcome this shit, at least to some degree. But even her, she's never going to get this off her record. Right. And it's going to follow her everywhere. And her employment opportunities are going to be limited forever. Mm-hmm. And her ability to provide for her, potential future children is going to be limited forever. And, the question is, like, who does that fucking serve?
Literally.
Like,
it serves the fucking prison industrial complex.
Yeah,
right.
It serves right. Yeah. But
serves the prisons.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it does not help you and I. Like,
no. Not whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not whatsoever.
Not even
police don't help you and I.
That's real shit. They protect property.
Right.
There's not of time I can tell you the last time a policeman, woman, police person
mm-hmm.
security guard has helped me do anything.
Yeah.
If you are broken down on the side of the road, they'll pass you a couple times before they stop. You got to be there for a minute. Mm-hmm. And somebody has to call and be like, hey, this person is on the side of the road. And then they'll come. Like, yeah, we got a call.
Yeah.
But they'll drive past you if you're just on the side of the road. They're not fucking worried about it.
I will never forget when this house got robbed, like way back in the day. I had to call the fucking police to, file an insurance report.
Right.
So I can get at least something back.
Sure.
And I will never forget the way they treated me. Like I was the one that was doing the wrong. I'm like, bro, I don't give a fuck. I don't even want to answer none of your questions. This is what's missing.
Right.
They wouldn't even let me come in my own house. I'm like, bitch, like that's my house.
Right.
You can't tell me to stay out of
They're like, you're actually probably committing insurance fraud. So,
well, I mean, and that's the thing too, is
put
like,
the cuffs on them.
It's not even generally working for the system. Doesn't generally even work for victims, which is who like all of these people will say that they're acting for, right. A lot of cops and a lot of prosecutors will say, I'm standing up on behalf of the victim of this crime. But like, are you really?
Right.
Because like, victims who say that they don't want charges to be pressed or don't want to continue get ignored routinely. If you are a victim of a crime and you don't show up to the trial because you don't think that this person should be prosecuted, they'll come arrest you potentially and bring you in to testify.
That's what happened to Hav. The person that was in the case that they said he kidnapped went to court and was like, yo, he didn't kidnap me. I was drunk and I got out of the car. And he also got kidnapping for kicking her out of the car. His car.
Yeah, what a fucking world.
He was like, get out of my car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She got out willingly. He didn't like pull her out or anything. Right. And then he left. And then somebody called the cops on him from there and they charged him with kidnapping. Like, how is this kidnapping? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things that's just like that crime is not what you think of it.
Well, it's like if you make anybody do anything, pretty much it's kidnapping.
Yeah, exactly. If you move them against their will, essentially, you've kidnapped them. So, like,
I've seen 4 third graders get charged with kidnapping because they stood in front of a kid on his bike and told him to get off.
Dude,
that's so crazy.
Yeah, I never worked in the juvenile system, thank God, but it is one of the most depressing things on the fucking planet. This county sends more charges more juveniles as adults than anywhere else in the state of Ohio, by the way.
Cash for kids.
Yeah.
You ever seen that?
No. Oh, in PA, right? The judge.
Yeah, the judge was had a deal with the detention center where he was just like basically selling kids away. Yeah. They were going to schools to arrest disobedient kids and calling their parents like, your kid was acting up in school, so we arrested him.
We're sending him to
and he got to do like 3 months or 6 months in the juvenile detention center.
That's just
like,
crazy.
what the fuck? You just picking kids up from school?
Well, you'll be
That's
happy
just
to know
crazy.
that judge went to prison himself.
He could.
he did go to prison himself. That's at the end of the documentary. I've seen the whole thing.
There's only certain few times where I hear that somebody goes to prison and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, right. That was for sure one of them. That guy's evil beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, sending kids, and like, he was also like extending sentences until they were like 18.
Yep.
Like he was not letting motherfuckers out.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And you know, that's still like, even though like maybe fucking it's sealed behind fucking
And he was only making like a couple grand a kid. Like
they're
you're a fucking
minor
bitch for a couple
fucking
thousand.
Minor rap sheet, blah blah blah. It's still gonna affect them for the rest of their lives because they can go through fucking school, none of that shit like normal.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I mean,
right.
you were locked in a box for
Facts.
your childhood.
Facts.
Yeah, you're not graduating high school at 18.
With no love.
Yeah.
Because COs don't love you.
No.
That's a
COs
fact.
do not love you.
It is heartbreaking. Some of this shit. And
they make you do weird shit like sweep carpet with brooms.
So we're at about an hour and 45 minutes here. Do you have any personal gripes you want to air out finally? You know, like any prosecutors you want to tell, fuck you?
No. I still have to go to work tomorrow.
I got you.
No, yeah. Thank you guys very much for having me on. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, this was delightful.
Hey, no, it's been a super good time.
Got one last question for you. The funniest quote you can give me from the courtroom.
I had a client once upon a time who, when I read the police report to him, his response was, I don't understand why I'm being charged. How the fuck is coming on someone's face illegal? That is the funniest thing I've ever heard of.
Oh, fuck.
The answer, by the way, is when she's asleep and is not asking you to.
Okay. 100%. 100%.
That's definitely illegal.
Yep.
My man really thought he was about to do the Spider-Man or some shit.
Yeah, he was a weird kid. I hope he got the help he need.
And on the note of coming on people's faces when they're not aware, it's definitely